Welcome to the Bodacious Women in Cannabis podcast, the show where the bold and brilliant women cannabis business leaders share their journey and their expertise. Here's your host, Susan Burns.
Hi, this is Susan Burns, your podcast host and on-call cannabis lawyer and business partner supporting women in the business of cannabis. Today we are talking with Brianna Kilcullen, and she is the founder and CEO of Anact, and you're going to love hearing about this company, and I can't wait to hear more. Welcome, Brianna.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
It's such a pleasure. So tell us about Anact. It doesn't sound intuitively like it's a cannabis business. So make that connection for us if you would.
Yes, that's a great point. So we purposefully made sure that we didn't include hemp in our language and in our brand name because we still feel like there's a lot of education that needs to happen, and there are negative stigmas in relation to hemp and cannabis. And so we wanted to have a brand name that was more all encompassing that people could connect with, and that by coming and being a part of our community, then they would learn hemp as a part of our story. And I think that as education happens around hemp, that hopefully that stigma will die down. But right now, we just didn't want to reduce the customer segments that would find our product beneficial. And so then in addition, when you start to do research to say, okay, what name do we want? You start to find out that almost everything has been trademarked. And so you kind of have to come up with a name at this point in order to have your own trademark and domain. So an act is really short for an act of kindness, an act of goodwill. I wanted to create a movement within the brand around what inspires me, which is every day waking up and saying, what are the acts that I can take today? What is within my control and my sphere of influence? And that's how I live my life. And how do we build a community around people who might have different priorities or have different priorities, but can be inspired to say, I can take action. There's other people out there taking action. And that's really where that brand name came from.
Great. I love that. So how does Anact relate to cannabis?
Yeah, of course. So for me, my background was in the apparel industry. I worked a lot with various sustainable, or not sustainable, but natural and synthetic fibers. And I learned just how sourcing for apparel works and all of the different fabrics, all of the different sustainability metrics around them. And so I personally became very invested in utilizing natural plant fiber based apparel and textiles. And I was just learning that the skin is the largest organ and that we are what we eat and what we wear. And so for me, it was just very important that I purchase products that are made in alignment with my values. And so when I discovered hemp, I was so impressed by its performance features and by its sustainability features. And I was really curious as to why we were not utilizing it more in textiles. And so when I did the research and saw the legislation and the lack of education and awareness, I saw a huge business opportunity to reintroduce hemp back in, specifically utilized in bath towels, because I hate the smell of mildewy bath towels, and hemp naturally resists the growth of bacteria. So it, to me, was a no-brainer that it should be a preferred fiber in that space. And I didn't see anyone doing it. And so I was like, why is no one doing this? And I was like, must be the legislation. It must be the fear around, this connection to marijuana. So if we create a product that performs better than anything else on the market, and we just then share, here's where hemp is involved, then that will help provide a better product, but also help push hemp forward. And I think I've also been attracted to hemp because when working in the apparel industry, you see just how fragmented and globalized that supply chain is. And you have cotton grown in India, and then it's sent to Taiwan, and then it's made into a fabric that's shipped to Vietnam, and then cut and sewn and imported into the US. And it's like this, one t-shirt has traveled more places than the average American. And so I think with hemp, what excited me and still excites me is the supply chain infrastructure is so limited that we have the opportunity to redefine what manufacturing looks like and to really ask those questions about who's the farmer, where are they growing it, how can we create manufacturing and processing as close as possible to the markets we sell to so we're not in this really globalized, fragmented system that is wreaking havoc on the planet and just economically doesn't make sense.
And hemp is, as it's grown, is viewed as much more sustainable than other products that are on the market for fabric, correct?
Yeah, so I'm a numbers girl because I think sustainability can get very greenwashed and can also take on this emotional uh, chord that I just don't think is beneficial for actually creating and driving sustainable businesses and products. So for me, things need to numerically make sense in order for us to know that they are what they are. So when I was at Prana, we had adopted this material thermometer that was created by Nike. So Nike went and did all of this life cycle analysis of all of the fibers used in our clothes. And then from there, they ranked numerically on what was the most sustainable based off of water usage, based off of energy, etc. And so hemp was number
And do they include pesticides in that?
yes.
Chemicals?
And so hemp was number 1. So to me, it was this is not only based off of the performance features and based off of what all of the reading content material I'm consuming is saying, but it's also quantitatively backed up. And when we ran a life cycle analysis on our product, which was the first thing I did before we even went into production, our product, that's how we're able to say the water savings and the impact score on our website and on all of our packaging sleeves. Like we actually did a life cycle analysis to say what is the sustainability savings for this product in comparison to 100% conventional cotton towel, and we can provide that data. So that was imperative to me that we can make these claims, but that we can also back them up.
Great. And I've always been curious about this because in the hemp industry, when you're making hemp derived products, like oils and gummies and tinctures and all those things, the amount of actual crop that you need is so small to produce so much. So that in and of itself is like environmental savings. Just, I haven't done the math, but I can calculate in my head if it's less material that you need, it would be lesser impact. Or I can make that conclusion safely, I think. But is that also true for fabric, or is it, because I know there's a much different process and you need to decorticate and all those kinds of things that are, that's quite the feat to figure that out. But in terms of how much you need.
Yes, so that was something that we experienced when I was living in California. I saw everyone in the cannabis industry super attracted and invested in CBD because of the ROI, but no one really thought about the scalability in the market space. So the issue with where we're at with hemp fiber is the supply chain is so limited. The prices are a bit more premium. But if you compare 1 acre of hemp to 1 acre of cotton, you're going to get 4 times the output at a fraction of the cost. So, if you do an apples to apples comparison, hemp is the crop to invest in, and from a productivity and from a ROI. But again, the economics have been off for a very long time. And so, I think what's happened in the cannabis industry as it relates to hemp is that everyone just sees how much oil can I get and resin, etcetera, and it's this high price and sell this, but they don't really think about, okay, well, how many markets does that live in? And who are all the players that are in that space? And what is the value? And I think a lot of people don't, this is, I'm a firm believer, people forget this. People do not care what you do if it does not make their life easier. And they are not living in our industry. And so it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People need to know how you're providing more value and more giving them, making their life better. And so I think that is where sorry, this is my rant on the hemp industry, but that's where I think people have gone wrong is they're like, oh my gosh, we're the first this hemp and we're the first that. And it's like, people don't care. The market doesn't care. Like they care how you just made their life easier by whatever you just provided for them. And so that's where I've always just felt like with Anact, my background's textiles, it makes sense to be in there, but it's been hard because we're constantly, if we're around other businesses in the hemp space, having to justify why fiber is the component of hemp to invest in. And so I just try to explain it's this market scalability. It's, being able to solve our customer problems, and hemp is a component of that story. Has been our advantage. And then I would say, this keeps coming top of mind with Anact, and when you asked about the brand name and where it came from, like, my greatest fear is that people are just gonna expect that other people are gonna see the world, do the things they want to see in the world, and that they're just going to get addicted to TikTok and Web3 and their phones and social media and not be present and active. And so I just really wanted to create an act around that. Yeah, I'm like, "Come on, everyone, we gotta get up." Like, we did not all survive the pandemic to, like, stay inside and be on our phones and not work together. Like, we have things that are pressing that we need to work on. Let's go. And so that's really another reason why, because it keeps me accountable, and I hope it, like, excites other people to know that as well.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for doing that. Much needed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So how long has Enact been in business? How long ago did you form the company?
I had the idea in August 2017. I started working on it in June 2018. We were funded on Kickstarter in 2019, and then we went to market in 2020. So we've been in the marketplace, yeah, going on 3 years. Yeah.
So tell us what you sell. What products do you sell in Enact?
So I designed a line of bath towels. So we have wash towels, hand towels, bath towels. Everything is chemical dye free. We use 55% hemp, 45% organic cotton. And we are working on a line of naturally dyed products as well that we're really excited about, so we can offer additional colorways. We also do a wearables component as well. So we have hemp tote bags, we have hemp bucket hats. We designed a custom Enact activist bath soap. So we like to try to kind of create all of these different ways in which you can wear the brand and then also accent your bathing experience. And we have some other really cool products in R&D right now, but that's our main offering. And we do a lot of custom stuff as well. So we can do custom embroidery on our towels, on our tote bags, on our hats.
Nice. I can't wait to purchase. So I'm going to ask you where we can find you at the end of our conversation here. But in your growth, so if you started thinking about it in 2017, we're 6 years out from that, 3 years on the market. What you obviously have faced some challenges along the way, and can you talk about any of those, or maybe your biggest one, and how you turned it around, and like anything that made you pivot and go, aha, or I ask that because so many times in our lives, whether it's business, personal, or other, like things happen and you're like, oh, everything's like, and then as I've gone along my way, I've realized those are really the great pivot moments where you're like, oh, and then you come out better. So that's what I'm asking about, like any kinds of things like that where you think the sky is falling.
So many, some that are occurring right now. I think that, yeah, like a tangible one that I'm on the other side now, so it's okay, I can talk about it. But we ordered product and there was confusion with the factory over, we called natural. We assumed natural was like undyed, unbleached. That's our natural colorway. But they assumed it meant white. And so we had our colorways mixed up and we placed a purchase order, and we thought the market would surely respond to white bath towels as opposed to this like more natural colorway. And so we ordered like 7 times the wrong colorway and there was this confusion. And I was just so, so upset. And turns out it's now the number one colorway. That's like what people like the most and are the most excited about is the natural colorway. So I think there's those oh shit moments where you're just panicking and you're like already in production. but finding those silver linings at the end that come out of that. But I think like in terms of challenges, I'm a first time business owner. My parents are not business owners. So I've had to really teach myself everything from the ground up. And that has been something that's good. I just naturally am like to learn new skill sets. And so for me, working in these larger corporate companies that have already had so many other people come before that have built them to where they're at, and not really getting to see that journey, and now to be boots on the ground and not get to say, "Oh, that's someone else's job to learn that," but to get to see A to Z how the ship operates, from legal contracts to our finances, to our marketing, to our product development. I really benefit from that. My mind benefits, my growth as a human being benefits because it's constantly moving and grooving and forcing me to evolve and forcing me to learn how to do better in order so that it can do its thing. So I think that that's been the hardest thing, but it's been the most rewarding. And I think the mentality I've had to take is that whenever something happens and it doesn't go the way I want it to go or I thought it should go, these like, oh shit, excuse me, moments, I just think something better is coming. That was sculpting me for something better. That's good. And I immediately allow like all of those feelings and emotions to flow through me and then focus on, okay, now where do we go? So I'm like very fluid in my like of like here's the overall vision and how we get there. I have to be very malleable to what that will look like, because sometimes most of the time when I think it should be a certain way, there's just something so much better waiting on the other side.
I'm a little bit jealous that you learned that lesson so young in life. It took me a long time. Good for you. I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah. Is there any advice that you would give to other women that are like sort of that are making not sort of that are making their way in the cannabis industry or starting a business or facing those hurdles and having to learn on your own? And
Yeah. I think the best advice I can give, which this is just where I'm at in this time of my life, so I'm sure I can give different advice at different advice points at different times, but nobody is gonna know the vision like you're gonna know it. And the best thing I can do is do not think that because like just because you're a female founder that you deserve more or special care, because it almost actually is like more detrimental. So I just think of myself as I'm a founder who has a product that the market needs, and tune out everything else. And as long as the market keeps responding to what you're putting out there, that's your validation that you are need to take up space. And I think that, like, all of the things that I've gone through in my life of, like, being left out on calls or being treated a certain way, like, those are your superpowers. And not leaning into thinking, like, these are my disadvantages that I wasn't included in the room, but being like, "Wow, that made me that much more aware of my surroundings so that I can get that market opportunity or I can get that sales order because I'm that much more attuned because I was constantly having to be." So just really not leaning into, like, any type of, how do I say it? Like, woe is me mentality, but just being like, those are your gifts. That is your space that you take those superpowers and go to the market. And I'm just saying that because I've seen a lot of female founders lately want investors to validate that they deserve to be there. And I think that the more I learn about investors, I'm like, they don't know what they're doing. They're literally just listening to everyone else and then following what everyone else is doing. And every once in a while, you get really great investors like we have that automatically understand what you're doing and want to be a part of it. And those are the people you want, but not looking for validation outside of yourself and really looking at your own journey and tapping into your own skill sets and then executing on them. I hope that was helpful.
excellent advice. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of listeners will appreciate hearing that from you.
Oh, good.
I'm always curious because when you go down a path and you think it's going to be one way, there comes a moment where you arrive at this place where, and maybe you haven't arrived there yet, but where it's like, holy smoke, I never thought in a million years something this fabulous would happen out of when I started, to make hemp towels. Do you have anything like that?
Yes. I mean, most recently speaking at Harvard, that was one where I was not on my bucket list.
Spoke at Harvard.
Yes. So I spoke at Harvard, all my family and friends came up, and it was this amazing weekend. And I spoke on being a female founder, about fast fashion, about the future of sustainability in textiles. And never in a million years, like that was not at all on my list of things that I wanted to check off. But I just had set an intention to say, I really want to do more speaking engagements and be more external facing on the vision of what we're doing and why. And then I got that email and they found me, myself, and Anact on Google and researched, and we checked all the boxes of all the things that they were looking to have people speak on. And I got the invite and went up there for the weekend and spoke. And I think that like you can't I think that what I've noticed is a lot of people, sometimes you see someone you really look up to and you think you have to recreate that journey of how they got to where they were in order to get there. And I think that we all have our own special journeys to follow. And that the key is that you put yourself in the arena. You have to be in the arena. And I think for those opportunities to come, but at the same side of that is you have to be willing to take a hit. You have to be willing to get like I was a great quote I read the other day, publicly dunked on. And I think, like, that's the part people think it's just easy, it just comes. It's like, no, this is coming at, like, me losing tons of my friends over the years who have not understood this journey and not being invited to weddings or baby showers or getting a lot of, like, pushback, for not being present at certain things and risking messing up and, like, not getting an order through or having customers say things about you or your product or slam you. Like, so I think that you don't know unless you don't go, and so you have to go. And when you're in the arena, that means that you have the opportunity to reach this high potential. But it also means that you're going to get a lot at the same time. And just knowing those two tensions exist, but that you just don't give up. You just keep going. And when it's hard and when you feel the resistance and when you feel that, you just say, okay, thank you. I hear you. I see you. I feel you. But this is what we're actually going to do today. And just continuing to move through that and really surrounding yourself with positive people who believe in you and who are going to always hold that for you, I think is so key.
You're so inspiring, Brianna. You really are. So I know what I think makes you bodacious. What is it that you think makes you bodacious?
Yeah, I'm pretty bold. I'm willing to go places where people don't want to go. I'm willing to show certain imagery of people who use our towels that most people have not ever seen use our towels. I'm willing to be vocal about the things we care about. And I'm not, just because I haven't been there before, doesn't mean that I'm afraid to go. So I think that would be what makes me bodacious.
Great. So tell us where people can find you and your bodacious products.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're based out of Austin, Texas. You can go to our website, enactglobal.com, and purchase our products online direct. We're also on Amazon. We are also in retailers as well throughout the United States. We're ramping up to have more of a retail footprint this year. And I encourage you to follow us on Anact Global on Instagram. We do monthly jogs every Saturday, first Saturday of every month here in Austin. And we're doing a really amazing environmental screening this July in Austin as well.
Nice. So anact.com, and that's ANACT.com, and at Anact Global on Instagram.
Correct. And then enactglobal.com works as well. Both work.
Well, thank you so much, Congratulations on your appearance at Harvard. I have the feeling that it's the first of many adventures for you, and I'll be looking forward to following you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Susan. I appreciate it.